Alright, $200. That's what I paid for this RTX 2070 Super used from eBay. In 2025, the used GPU market is wild, and it really got me wondering, what kind of real-world performance can you really get for 200 bucks? Prices are all over the place, from overpriced old cards to sketchy listings that look like they were shot on a potato phone. So in today's video, I'm going to break down this deal I got, test it in a few popular games, and let you know if a used 2070 Super is really worth it or if you should spend your money elsewhere. Spoiler alert, this card might surprise you. So let's dive in and see what $200 can really get you on the used GPU market in 2025. Alright, so let's talk performance. So I decided to pair the RTX 2070 Super with a Ryzen 5 3600. I also paired it with 16 gigs of RAM. I decided to run a few popular titles at 1440p. Now I know what you're thinking, the 2070 Super and Ryzen 5 3600, that sounds like a 1080p combo. And that's originally what I thought, but I figured, hey, why not test it at 1440p? And you would actually be surprised with the FPS numbers that I got. It shows how a used $200 2070 Super paired with a relatively cheap Ryzen 5 3600 can actually output very playable frames at 1440p, let alone 1080p. I ran a few of the current titles just to see how far this $200 can really go. So the first game I tested was Fortnite, and instead of doing performance mode, I decided to do it on the DirectX 12 mode. For the settings, I put it at the high preset, but I did disable nanite geometry just because it tanks your FPS. And at 1440p, with these high settings, I averaged 182 FPS. For a used card from 2019 for $200 at 1440p, that is some of the best value that I've actually seen. Now the next game I tested out was Black Ops 6, mainly because it has a built-in benchmark, which is super convenient, and it actually surprisingly ran very smooth at 1440p. I changed the settings to the balanced preset, and I actually averaged 124 FPS. However, I figured why not enable AMD FSR 3 frame generation, and with that enabled, I did average 178 FPS. Now I know a lot of people online don't really recommend using frame generation with competitive games, but personally, I did not feel any input delay. I would like to also point out that on Fortnite and Black Ops 6, I did use DLSS with the performance preset, upscaling it from 720p all the way up to 1440p using NVIDIA DLSS. In terms of the actual FPS numbers, I never noticed any stutters, even with frame generation enabled, and it's definitely playable at high refresh rates with 1440p. Now the final game that I did test was Apex Legends. I did use the high preset as well, and I came to an average of 173 FPS in 1440p. It's honestly a great showcase of showing off how optimized Apex Legends is and how the 2070 Super still has plenty of life left for 1080p and 1440p gaming. All in all, this $200 used 2070 Super still holds its own in 2025, even at 1440p. Paired with a fairly mid-range CPU like the Ryzen 5 3600, you're certainly able to push out high refresh rates in titles that I tested out, and for just around $200, this is a steal in the used market in 2025. Especially if you're upgrading from, let's say, a 1660 Super, something of that caliber. If you have $200 on your hands, I would definitely recommend this as an option for you, especially if you don't want to test out AMD and just want to stick with NVIDIA. I really hope you guys did enjoy this video and found it informative. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel down below.